Hello, everyone. Welcome to Satsang. Um, I missed you all from not being available last week because it was a travel day, but I'm traveling tomorrow. Today, I am sitting in Tempe, Arizona, at my youngest son's house. He's not that young, and he's got a very nice backyard and a patio. So I'm sitting out here. You very well could see some dogs running around, maybe even hear them bark. So all is well. So I was setting this up this morning. I was thinking, what do I want to say? And so I could give it a title in advance. They like that on Facebook and and I've just myself been pondering a lot about the this idea that is one of the central ideas of Buddhism, along with no self, is the idea it all is mind, and everything we experience is mind and projection of mind. Now, what that means in a very real sense is that I never actually experience anything other than mind. And by mind, in the Buddhist sense, these days, especially non dual teachers tend to use it more about mind being nothing other than the thought patterns. Um, that's one way of defining it, that mind is not a thing, but it is simply the word given to a collection or a functioning, and that functioning is called thinking. And what is thinking but the flow of thoughts, right? Thoughts in patterns, and this is what we know of as mind. But the Buddhist idea of mind was far more expansive. It Every experience, right? Be it a thought or a sensation or a perception or an emotion, the sum total of all experience was mind. And they put it in such a way, Buddha put it in such a way that you would see mind as substance, not as not as a perceiving vehicle, but as the creating vehicle. That that what you perceive doesn't exist separate from the perceiving of it. In other words, perceiving and creating were one and the same. And that the fundamental ignorance, which he said was at the foundation of the entire chain of cause and effect, and everything has come flowed from that, was the ignorance that believed that what I was perceiving existed independently from me. So, in other words, I'm looking, behind me, you're seeing one side a palm tree, some other trees on the other side, you're seeing a barbecue grill. And the belief is that they exist whether I perceive them or not. That's what definition of objective is, and that's what most people's definition of reality is. Well, Buddha would have said, not true. It does not exist without a perceiver there to perceive it. It has no existence whatsoever. I mean, it is completely nothing until it is perceived. And in this sense, it is not perceived the way the senses perceived, in that something is there and then it comes into the view of my senses. This perception is the creation of it. So there's nothing but perception. And this was encapsulated in the teaching called the five skandas. And the skandas refer to each of the levels of, of belief leading up to consciousness. The first level being simply form, right? There's no object without form. Nothing exists without form, right? Then otherwise it's blank, it's empty. So form is that first thing, that first something coming into existence. The next skanda was sensation. That is, I'm experiencing it. But in Buddhist meditation, if you examine it closely enough, you find that there's absolutely nothing in any sensation and in any form that tells you conclusively that what you are experiencing exists independent of your perceiving of it. And therefore, the 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 form literally disappears because there's nothing there being seen into sensation itself. That is sensation without any source. Now imagine, right, 3D world, right? All these experiences, talking, having conversations, other beings, and there's nobody there. From the point of view of experience, there is, and it's pure sensation without anything causing it. And at that moment, when you see that it is sensation without anything being perceived, without anything actually there, even the word sensation ceases to have any meaning because it means, right, the sense is picking up some external object. And both of those collapse into the third skanda, which is perception. And suddenly it's only perception, no form, no sensation. Means there's no body. There's nobody and there's no body. There are no senses. The senses themselves appear only as an image in the mind. The fourth skanda the is objects of mind. What is a perception now gets identified, it gets named, it gets categorized, it gets associated, it gets all this stuff. An entire universe gets built around it, which in turn interacts with the perception. But yeah, I'm going through the short version of this, but you can see the potential that even perception will then disappear into the objects of mind. Because what do we see? We see objects. Right? When I see a tree, right, you can see all of the different levels at which this perception takes place until it finally is simply tree. It's got a whole history and a life and categorization and genus and all that sort of thing. Right? And then it finally folds into consciousness, the the sense of being, which in Buddhism is not the last step. In Advaita Vedanta, it is, but in Buddhism, it is not. Consciousness is not the same as the self, whereas in Advaita, it would be regarded as that pure awareness or consciousness. But they're talking about exactly the same thing. I wanted to discuss that, and because what you experience, I want to look at this in a very practical way. So this isn't just kind of a philosophical thing to look at. Make you sound smart at a party about, oh, the nature of perception. I know what that is. But how does that impact our life? Well, when I form a concrete belief about something, which is an object of mind, I am literally believing it into existence. If I believe that it's hard to make a living, it will be hard to make a living, not because it actually objectively is, but because you believe it that it is. Take anything, you know. I hear this a lot from my female students. There's no good men out there. Where are all the good men? And when you say that there are no good men out there, and you believe that, you literally create the experience of there being not any good men out there. You have believed it into existence. Now, can you grasp the power of that? Every single thing that's ever gone down in your life has been a result of your beliefs, right? And of course, the majority of those beliefs were installed in you before you had any say over the matter. Right? They were just installed. They were not deliberated. They were, it didn't ask for your permission. You were just taught this. You began to believe it. You picked up both quiet, invisibly transmission from your parents, right? Just energetically, patterns of thought that had been in the family forever. And then, friends and the media and, kind of this conglomerate of stuff. And you formed a view of reality that you believed in and thus created your entire experience. If I believe I am not worthy and I should be punished, then I will experience life through the lens of not being worthy. That's the perceptual lens, and it will create form and sensation that match that. Now, as you can tell, this is kind of like what they teach in the law of attraction, but they they don't take it far enough. It's really quite remedial. You are the arbiter of the entire thing. What you believe manifests as reality. There is no objective reality. None. Zero. It then behooves us two things. One is be very vigilant about the kind of thoughts you entertain, the kind of things. God, this always happens to me. Ah, guess what? It's always going to happen to you. Why? What's the power that's making it always happen to you? You. You are the power. You are the Buddha. You are the creator. You are the I am. You are Brahma. You are the creator God. You are Yahweh. Um, I really want you to grasp the significance of this. And then what would it mean if I'm the one creating my whole life and everything in it and everyone in it, every single perception I have? Well, then who am I? All of this has proceeded forth from me. Therefore, it is all me. Everything. Nothing left out of that. Well, then who are you? Not just this person sitting here listening to this guy talk. Clearly not. You've created me. Who are you then? The creator of the universe. Is that too much to take? Is that too big? So, oh, I'm not that. Do we want to not take responsibility for all of it? Do you want to continue to imagine yourself suffering at the hands of others, or at the hands of circumstance, or the hands of some unfair world out there? Or do you want to step into the ultimate authority, which is the knowing who you are, identifying yourself with the Brahma self? This recognition is the Buddha. That is the Buddha made manifest. The reality is the Buddha. The experience of it is the Buddha. This is Buddha nature. This is also Christ consciousness. Christ spoke from this place. I and my Father are one. If you've seen me, you've seen the Father. He even said in the Gospel of Thomas, "He who drinks of my mouth shall become as I am, and I shall be he." Or she. What was he pointing at? He who drinks of my mouth, which is exactly what I'm speaking of right now. I and my Father are one, shall become as I am. I am, sound familiar? And I shall be he. And I'm going to leave it at that. This is the kind of thing that you ponder, because remember that the using the other definition of mind, um, that the tendency of thinking, our thought patterns have all anchored themselves in the original fundamental belief: I am the body. I'm the body in a world. So I am here, the world there. That is the original illusion. That is the original ignorance. You're not the body in the world. You are that from which both the body and the world have emerged. You are the all. And the practice, as it were, was is watching the thoughts that revolve around that sense of a finite, limited self identified as the body and going, there it is. And it's just a pattern of thought that has gotten put into place and not been scrutinized. So I'm going to leave it at that, everybody, and go back and say hello to everyone. And it's good to be back with you all. I always miss it when I have to skip a week, but next week should be good. I am traveling tomorrow. I start tomorrow and I end up there on Tuesday morning. So it's kind of it's a long travel. So hey, Roberto, welcome to Europe. Not quite yet. I will be there on Tuesday. Red Rose for you, Sonia. I'm dealing with a fear that hits me hard when I feel overwhelmed, and that I'm not going to be able to complete what I need to, and I also stress because I want to have free time to do whatever I want. Okay. Well, first off, I'm dealing with a fear that hits me hard. Now, when a fear comes up, and it comes up to everybody, right? It's just part of life. Does the fear say, I'm hitting you hard? Or is that an idea, a concept associated with fear, right, that came after the fear appeared? Does it come with it? Does fear say, I'm hitting you hard? Or is it just a sensation in the body? And of course, that it hits me hard, the underlying belief there is that I'm not going to be able to complete what I need to do. That's actually there first, because if it wasn't, the fear would have no place to land. If it came at all, it'd be a little shiver and just pass away. There'd be no overwhelm, right? So now let's look at that. This is a statement of the belief. I'm not going to be able to complete what I need to. Right? Now, if you believe that, right, and remember, when I talk about beliefs, I'm not just talking about stuff in the head. I am talking about these kind of assumptions, right? That we've been thinking them so long that we don't think they're not conscious thoughts anymore. They're assumptions that are creating thoughts, like hits me really hard, right? Oh, this fear is terrible. I am overwhelmed. Those are all thoughts arising from another thought that's been thought so many times you don't have to think about it anymore. Like, when you learn to ride a bike, at first you're wobbly, you fall over. Eventually, you don't have to think about it anymore. You learned how to walk, tie your shoes, eat, speak. You don't think about it, right? This is the way the whole autonomic nervous system works. If it's something that's repetitive enough, it makes it important and it embodies it into the body. The same thing is true of thoughts. Right? If I think the same thought over and over again, the message is, oh, this is important. We'll just automate this, right? So we don't have to think about it. We don't have to worry about it anymore. It'll just be there. These are the energetic assumptions, right? So I'm not going to be able to complete what I need to do. That's the only thing you have to pay attention to. Is that really true? Okay. And the assumption that there are severe consequences for doing that, for not, right? Which I know you, so I know that you actually did experience severe consequences when you didn't. But even if you did do it, that somebody would complain about it in your family. And so the nervous system learned, right? It is terrifying, right? The possibility that I might not complete what I need to do. Now, I just want you to take it. You know how to tap with it, and just start with that. I'm not going to be able to complete what I do. Oh my God, what a disaster. I'm not going to be able to complete what I do. And just tap it. Just stick with that, completely voicing all the horrible consequences of not being able to complete what you need to do. And keep doing it for a while and then stop, just check in, and see if it rings as true as it did before. And so while I've been talking about her specific, I think I've tried to generalize it enough so everybody can understand what happens. There's an underlying belief that's there first. Now, of course, we aren't born with these beliefs, they're programmed into us, but once they are, they manifest, right? A fear comes up, and all of a sudden, the fear has an interpretation attached to it, a whole story that goes with it that's associated with this, because this belief is interpreting experience. You can't just say, "Oh, fear happened," right? "Oh, what's that fear? What does it mean?" Boom, and it's just processing so fast, right? Like riding the bike, it just happens so fast. You never fall down. You can't unlearn it, right? The good news about this stuff is that you can unlearn it. But that's the mechanism behind it that I want everybody to understand. Um, because once you do, there are two things. Number one, you'll realize that this belief is creating your experience, right? And once it's gone, it will not be experienced again because it is not an objective thing. And the other is, it's not true. It's simply not true, right? And little by little, the more you kind of dig into it, the more, and the more that belief begins to shift, you'll begin to see the evidence appear. Oh, it's not that it isn't true. Then, in fact, you are able to complete it. And on those rare times when you can't, for whatever reason, there'll be no consequence other than, oh, well, we're going to have to extend the time or do it differently or whatever. There'll be no negative consequences to it. Okay. So you can see how this whole thing um, has settled in, has constructed itself. And now you get the wonderful opportunity to deconstruct it and let it go forever, because it was never true. Does that help, Sonia? Ah, my beautiful friend. Very good. Very good. Back down really quick. Okay. Let's see. Liza. Hello, Liza. Good to see you. Where on earth are you today? Well, Tempe, Arizona right now. I think you saw the dogs running around. The big Doberman is Gus. He looks very intimidating, but he's a total pushover. A needy Doberman. Not very useful as an attack dog. Anyway, so that's where I'm at my son's house. I got to spend a week with them after spending a week with my other son, and I have an inherited 14-year-old step grandson here, as well as my son and his wife, and other people that I've known out because I've visited quite a bit. So I leave tomorrow morning at 6 a.m. the local time. It's really early because the flight isn't until 4 in the afternoon out of Dallas to Frankfurt, but just the way it is when you fly standby. Because my daughter-in-law works for the airline, so I fly very cheaply, but I might even end up in first class, or I could end up at the back of the bus. I don't know. We'll see. Hopefully on the long one, I'll at least get to business class. Could happen. The numbers look good. So anyway, that's where I am on the earth today. Next week, I will be somewhere around Frankfurt, and it'll be very, very fun. Hello, Robbie from Romania. There's Tatiana in Toronto. There's Penny in the west coast of Canada. There's Ava in Poland. Dave and Elaine, good to see you in the southeast of England. Then there's Rosario, also in Madrid. Welcome to Europe. Not quite yet. Europe bound. Not quite yet. 2 days. There's Joanna. There's Rosario Alba. Oh, okay. I see it. Johanna, hello, GP. Hello. There's Ursula, Madeira Island. There's Merck. Hi, GP, and all. Lovely winter weather over there. Well, in Arizona, yeah. Guess Europe is not behaving at its best right now. So much fear everywhere, mass psychosis and manipulation. We need more EFT and less mRNA. I would agree with that. I would agree with that. So everyone should do more. And, you know, everyone, there's, I don't know if you can see him. Yeah, put your hand there, boy. Um, everyone has a bit of a responsibility for mitigating the amount of fear in the world. I mean, there's a lot of fear, right? Some of it is, there's some legitimacy to some of it. We all need to be concerned to a certain degree, and a lot of it is just over the top because we don't know what to do. We don't really know what's going on. We don't really feel confident uh, about how it's being handled, and so there's a lot of unknowns there, and in those unknowns is where all of the fear can creep in, all of the anxiety, all of the actually even all of the anger and the hatred, because there's all of these unknowns. And yes, there's some manipulating it. So it's our mission to become incapable of being manipulated. But that doesn't mean taking a strong contrarian position. It means to be inwardly open and to intelligently find the right way to become fearless, to live without fear. Now, as I was saying in the beginning, and this might seem rather radical, and I don't talk about this often, but and usually not, except to advanced people. But I'm going to throw a little bit out here, and and that is, excuse me, and that is that if it is indeed all mind, as the Buddhists say, then the true virus is here. And if that's the case, then the true immunity is here. Now, this does not mean that I am advocating for or against vaccines or any of the precautions or wearing a mask. I am not taking any position on that whatsoever. It would be irresponsible as a teacher who has influence over people to do that. I'm always one to make up your own mind, but be open and avoid cognitive bias and all the other kinds of things that can confirmation bias that can pop up. But I take it from the position that nothing can enter into my life that doesn't get into my mind as a belief. To me, this is an absolute fact. That doesn't mean concessions aren't made, right? But for the most part, I don't seek out medical help for most things. I have in some instances, but I don't make a habit of that sort of thing. I'm very, this is an art of moving within the world from a very different perspective. But this is a perspective in which, while it is an absolute position, you cannot force it as an absolute ideology. I hope I'm explaining that correctly. But if we can remove our own fear, right, what impact would that have on the world? And I mean fear of the virus, fear of the vaccine, fear of the mass manipulation, fear of the authoritarian, tiptoe, the the power grab, all of our fears, right? All of them, right? Now, as I said in the beginning, what you believe to be so will be your experience, and you have within yourself the entire power of all creation. So I highly, highly recommend that we spend less time arguing or criticizing or taking a stand, and more time simply freeing ourselves from all of any limiting belief whatsoever, including, oh, I can't do this because the economy's in bad shape. If that comes in as a belief, I will now not be able to do it. But it won't be because the economy is in bad shape. It'll be because you believe the economy is in bad shape and that's affecting your thinking. is creating the effect, but we ignorantly attribute it to something that appears to be outside of us. In other words, the inner, your inner, is what is appearing here. This is all within you. There is nothing external other than what you say is external. Oh, the power of this, if you can grasp it, if you can begin, if you can get the inkling that kind of the intuition that what I'm saying is true, it will begin to unravel all the ways in which you have given your power to an imaginary external authority, be it that, be it anything, be it a virus or a political system. I guess I'll leave it at that. So, tap away, Merc. And I'm going to be doing, I've got a whole bunch of new EFT videos planned over the next couple of months, and some new trainings and some new courses. So there's going to be a lot coming your way on that subject. Yeah. And I'm just happy that Germany didn't change the rules so badly that I won't be able to get in when I get there. So far, I'm going to be able to get in. Ava, somebody told me once, I can't remember who, but I liked it. The universe looks more like a great thought rather than a great machine. Yeah, I don't know who said that, but it's true. And I don't know about you, but when I ponder that, my mind gets blown, and I get totally inspired. It's just, I mean, as just one level of that after another begins to unfold, you just go, oh my God, it's a thought. The universe is God thinking. And who might that be? What other self do you know other than you? I mean, yeah, me and the trees and everything around you and everybody you know, but you just know of them. They're experiences that you're having. What's the only self you really actually know? It's you. Who's that you? What if that you is the creator of the universe, but created it in such a way that it would forget that it was, so it could have the full experience of it? What would that look like? Your life? Because that's exactly what it is. The universe is a great thought, is a projection of mind, as Buddha put it. It is mind. Realizing that, it becomes the great perfect mirror mind. In other words, the self looking at itself. The self in essence, the formless, looking at itself in form. Right? The emptiness and the form. They're not two. Beautiful. Thank you, Ava. Hello, Bob. Bob, good to see you. Good to see you. Peter in Italy. Everyone, glad to be here. Glad to see you are okay. Thank you for the precious pointers and wonderful topics. Oh, thank you. Yes, I'm quite well, thank you. Hello, Melissa. Good to see you. Hello, hello. David and Lane. There is no world, only mind. And mind is just the ripple on the ocean of consciousness. From the Ruba Gita. Beautiful. Yes. There is no world, only mind. And what is mind but a collection of thoughts? And what are thoughts but evanescent ripples on the infinite ocean of pure awareness, self? That's another way the Ribu Gita says it in a different place. But it's just extraordinary. I've been reading that probably every day. That one, when I ran across it, just went, whoa, what is this? It is the most clearest expressions of Advaita I've ever seen. And even the practice of it. It's very, very practical. It isn't just philosophical. Right? It really goes through absolutely every idea of duality, and gently deconstructs it and points the way. I highly recommend that book to everyone. And if you're not up for the reading, because it is available on, it's called The Essence of Ribugiti, and it's on Amazon. Um, but there's also recordings by Samanera Jayasara, who does a beautiful job of the reading of that, which is where I first discovered it. So by I highly recommend that to everyone, as does David and Elaine, as you can see. So yes, all is the self. As I say, everything is the supreme being, which is being, consciousness, bliss. And you are that, the one supreme being. Try to take that in. When I say you are way more than you think you are, I'm not kidding. There's Steph. Hello, Steph. Namaskaram. Red Rose. For you, thank you, GP. You're very welcome. Melissa, the process of letting go of conditioning, becoming aware, this satsang is always the highlight of my week. Happy travels, G. Oh, you're very welcome. Thank you very much. Very, very much. The satsang is the highlight of my week too, because um, I get I get to speak more about the absolute, about the essential nature of being. Whereas when I'm working with people in a lot of the classes, I step it down some notches to make it very practic and therapeutic, right? To help people with emotional and psychological issues, with stress, with troubles they're having in their life. And the beauty of this kind of an approach to spirituality is it functions very well on that level. It does heal. It does transform lives, but it doesn't stop there. um, and my job is to show you where that power of healing and transformation actually comes from, and that the transformation is happening at the level of mind and conditioning. The real you, the real you, never transforms and needs no healing. It was never conditioned. It was never stuck. It never had any problems. If you can get that, the therapeutic becomes less and less significant and happens automatically. Right? Because all of our problems arise from the belief I am the body in a world. That makes the world objective. This makes the body objective. It means the body's functioning has nothing to do with me. It's just kind of happening. And I mean, really, it's only been, at least in the West, in the mainstream thinking, that thought has any effect on the body whatsoever or emotion. It's only been in the last 60 years, well, 100 years. It goes back to the first new thought stuff. Well, there was Christian Science. There was the transcendentalist movement. A lot of stuff on the East Coast. All is mind, and um, and then eventually, in the turn of the last century, some of the Eastern things. There was a conference of religions. It was the first time a Zen Buddhist had set foot in this country, and so this merging began to take place, but it was still very fringe. But over the last 50 years, it's become more and more and more looked at. Till now, it is regarded. It's not even controversial that childhood trauma will lead to illness, to physical illnesses. The exact mechanism as to how is not really clear yet. Um, to them, it is. If you're, it is to me. But I'm not one of them. So I don't have any kind of authority in that world. But remember, it hasn't been that long, right? When I was a kid, right? DNA. That's the hand you were dealt. That's it. Neuroplasticity. What was that? It was behavioral, and you're kind of stuck. Um, that's all. That's all shifted. That's all changed. And so the the fact that there is this incredible flow, this continuum between emotion, thought, and the physical body, and it isn't just this thing in a world. And then to see that for thousands of years, in a completely different perspective on the experience we're all having, right? Was that that it is not separate from me; it is me. The sage and the ordinary and the ignorant have exactly the same experience. There's no difference. The sage gets a cold. Sage gets hungry. Sages, they get married, have kids, right? Everything that goes along with it, right? And so what is being experienced, that is, in its is the same. The interpretation of what is the experience is completely different, right? To the sage, it is all myself. To the unenlightened, I am this body. There is this world. Oh, what's going to happen to me? Right? So my job is to make you all sages. How am I doing? Do I get to keep my job? So, let's see, Melissa. I wanted to comment more. Process of letting go of conditioning, becoming aware. Yes, it's actually becoming aware, which naturally has you let go of conditioning. Because the very act of seeing conditioning as conditioning, rather than as just as the way I am, it's a bad habit, how do I overcome it? If I just see that it is conditioning, that seeing is becoming aware. That is awakening, right? I'm no longer just, I'm no longer it. It's no longer just completely, it happens, I respond, boom. There's no deliberation in there. Awakening means there's enough of a separation that I realize that this is conditioning. And going a little bit deeper, the conditioning is not me, right? That it is simply the way the system got programmed, like any other system. And I'm here looking at it. And yeah, there's a lot of thoughts, and I keep falling back in and coming out. But for the most part, I'm out, right? The very fact that I got out once is really all it takes. That is the awakening, and it's only a matter of time before that gets deeper and deeper and deeper. And you can simply ask, well, then, if I'm not my conditioning, if I'm not this body, then who am I? Right? And of course, now you're standing on holy ground. So thank you. Steph loves Dobermans. Yeah, they have this reputation, these tough dogs, but they've had two of them, and they've just been just sweetie pies, and I've loved them. And when I get up and walk around, Gus is like right next to me, just go every day. It's really fun. Renee, I'm in a crossroads in my career and life. Everything is great. I just feel a change a coming. I'm confident it will all work out, and I'm fortunate to have options. Any advice how to choose my road? Um, yeah, yes. Um, it's wonderful. First, enjoy the mystery of it. Let's just look at this in slow motion, right? You didn't, you didn't make the road. You're living your life, you're doing stuff, and finally, so you find yourself at a crossroads, right? Or maybe a Y, you know, in the road. Now, you didn't make that crossroad, did you? But in the course of living your life, you've been through this. This is where you've gotten. And you go, oh, well, now, which way do I go? Now that can for many that can be very, very stressful. What causes the stress? The stress is an underlying belief that I could possibly make a mistake, okay? That I could make the wrong choice. Right? Right. Now look at it a little bit deeper. Look at any choice you've ever made in your life, right, that was big enough to matter. Right? Any of them. Right? Doesn't matter what it was. Especially if it caused you a little bit of stress. What am I going to do? How am I going to do this? Right? And then look at the moment when the choice was made. Now look really closely. What actually happened? Did you, were you there making choices? Right? You know, you were, there was stuff going on in your mind. There were some complete competing directions and the sense of not knowing where to go. But didn't simply a choosing thought emerge, and behind it some energy, right, that started you in a direction, and a split second later a thought appeared, I chose that. Did you really choose it? Do you choose the direction any more than you chose the crossroad that was approaching? Think about this deeply, and if you realize that I didn't do the crossroad, I didn't do the options, I'm not making the choice. I'm along for the ride. And it'll take all the fear out of it. You can't make a mistake because you're not choosing. And no mistakes can be made because what is choosing is infinite intelligence. You can't screw this up. Right? Now, the mind will say you can, right? Especially if you start heading in a direction and it doesn't look like it's going anywhere, or maybe suddenly it gets really difficult. You go, oh my God, I made the wrong choice. Really? How many times we've started off in a direction in life, we think we're headed here, and like before you know it, you're completely somewhere else, right? And it's actually better. It's like, oh, this is cool. I wasn't expecting this. Oh, this is kind of fun. It happens to me all the time. All the time. Certain things kind of pop up in your life completely unexpected, and they turn out to be absolutely wonderful. Right? Not planning on it, didn't have it on my vision board or anything, but poof, there it was. Easy, falls right into it. And then later, some obstacles can begin to appear, and you go, "Oh, maybe was this the right thing?" And you go, "What's this?" Right? I'm not choosing it. If I'm not choosing it, then it's life unfolding itself, and it can't make a mistake. There are no mistakes when it's seen from this point of view. The only mistake is thinking I'm making the choice. Right? So now, on a very practical level, we're so used to just notice that there's a couple of different ways, maybe several different ways you can go. And one of the ways that I'll approach this on a practical level is to simply picture yourself, take each one of the ways that you're thinking to go individually, and just picture yourself there. Begin to play with it. What would it be like? Right? But dropping the idea that you're choosing, and instead just being with what it feels like. Right? I've done this. And then try the other one, right? Give them all equal time. And there's no rush. Keep coming back. This is just keep coming back to it. And see if at some point, one of them begins to emerge with more energy behind it, and the others begin to dissipate a bit. One will begin to all by itself become dominant, and you'll notice that the choosing is happening and you're not doing it. You're just being this presence that allows for all of it to unfold as it actually is. You become the garden, and the direction is like a plant growing in it. And there's a bunch of plants, and one of them's going to get to be the biggest. Some are going to turn out to be weeds, right? But something is going to become, this is the way, walk ye in it. And you're just going to go, right? And you're going to realize that, my God, I've never made a choice in my life. I've never chosen anything. It has simply unfolded to my benefit. And my mind may disagree and say it should have been different, but oh well. That's just our mind arguing after the fact, because in our minds we have this idea of where we want it to go, right? And that's okay. It's a direction, but never hold on to that because it could always be wrong. Well, wrong is the right word. Wrong word. It life will never actually show up exactly according to your blueprint, no matter how well you do it, no matter how well you build that that vision board. Life is under absolutely no obligation to conform to your wishes, but you are definitely under the obligation to conform to that which is happening. And the more you do that, the more just peaceful you get about the whole thing. It's like nothing nothing has ever gone wrong. Nothing ever could, right? Which is a strange thing to think when you look around the world, right? When nothing's going wrong. Somebody even said that once to Nisargadatta about all the stuff going on in the world. And he's in my world, there's absolutely nothing wrong. How do we get to that state? Because if you're living in that state, what influence do you think that's going to have over experience? The world will no longer appear to you as something that's completely crazy and out there. Okay. Now, before I, believe it or not, it is the desert and the temperature just dropped a little bit. I'm going to go grab a sweater. So if you don't mind, I'll be right back. That make sense. No. Good. Oof. Now I am getting chilly. Oops. All right. Cam, audio. Can you guys hear me now? Uh-oh. Uh-oh. What's going on? Oh, there it goes. Somebody got locked up. All right, you guys can hear me now. Okay, very good. That was very funny. I realized the mic was still on. Heard me talking to myself. All right, so does that help, Renee? That yeah, I teach a totally different way of actually making life choices. That's really based on this idea that you're the garden. You're the environment in which these things grow, and so you really are the creator of your entire experience. Anyway, all right, let's see here, John, GP. This is both powerful and very difficult for the ego. Yeah. Is it possible that we turn to God partly because the self cannot deal with this truth? Thanks for your teaching. Well, God is the creative power of the self projected outwards. Because I'm not owning it. The ego isn't owning that sense, as it can't. That the false sense of self, the limited sense of self, can't own it, right? And so it projects it outward. And that God, that is an objective creative force influencing our life. We can call it the universe. We can call it law of attraction. We can call it material laws, physical laws. We can call it, the stars, right? And astrological signs. You can call it all sorts of stuff. But what it is a projection of your inherent creative power out into an external universe. It is a projection, right? So God is a metaphor for the self, right? The sense of the I am, the creator, right? Uh, and in our world of a monotheism where there's only one God, but where there's a polytheism where there's a bunch of them. And if you really look closely at the mature way that both what we would call primitive cultures, like Native Americans and Aboriginals, and even ones that became far more sophisticated, like the Hindus and the like, the more mature ones they didn't believe in a tree god, right, or anything like that, or the god of fire and stuff like that. They realized that there was this essence behind it all. There was this energy that appeared to be manifesting itself in all sorts of different forms, and so they would refer to the energy, the spirit of fire, or the spirit of the wind, right? The I'm not exactly sure which tribe, which referred to this big lake. I think it was Minnesota. The smile of the Great Spirit. So they didn't see this world as hard matter. They saw it as an appearance, as a reflection of some indescribable beingness. And so God has, obviously, what a word. The Everybody thinks their version of it is the right one. I know this is what God really is, but the moment you make God into a fact, you've missed the whole point. God is not a fact. God is a spirit, right? That even says that God is love, right? Those are not forms. That's not a being, right? And so if God is love, then every act of love I engage in is God, right? Every feeling of love I have is God. Right? That makes me God. And I don't like to use that term very often because it's so twisted in the West, and I've heard people use that, and it's really the ego saying it. Only God can say I'm God, right? But to put it more as love, well, do I love or am I love? That's a question one could ask themselves. From where does this love arise? Would it exist without me? And yes, we see love when it takes shape, right? The relationships between people, actions of kindness, actions of sacrifice, of altruism, and the like. And we easily identify that and go, that's a loving act. Well, how do you know? How can you distinguish, right? What is it in you that allows you to know that that's love? Only love recognizes love. Only God knows God. Only truth recognizes truth. So if I recognize the truth, it must be truth recognizing it. If I recognize love, it must be love recognizing itself. If I recognize God, it must be God recognizing itself. So God is yet another word for the self. And when I talk about the self, because especially in the West, we've been so educated to God being really the ultimate other, that we can then say we use the word like Buddha nature or true consciousness or pure awareness or the self, and we immediately put it off there somewhere, right? But are you not awareness? Are you not aware? Right? Well, what could be aware other than awareness? Are there a bunch of different awarenesses? Who can recognize the self, any self, other than the self? So these are all words for the great mystery, which is I am that. I am that. I'm not something approaching that. I'm not even a seeker on the way to that. I am that. And even the seeking is happening just as a projection of the mind. It's, try to take this in, right? It's impossible for the ego to take this in. So when you say it's very difficult for the ego, come to see this. The ego doesn't exist. If you believe there is an ego, you will experience the inner resistance, right? But you're creating it because there is no ego. It's just a thought. A thought believed in becomes experienced. A thought that isn't believed in, poof, it's gone. Absolutely gone. There is no ego. It is only a thought believed. So you say it's very difficult for the ego. Well, it's not difficult for the ego because the ego doesn't have any existence. There's nothing there that is resisting or denying. There's only a resisting and denying thought. You attribute it to the ego, and all of a sudden it becomes an objective force within you. And now you think, I'm dealing with my ego. You are dealing with your belief in an ego, nothing more. Right? Subtle. This is very subtle. I agree, right? Right? But push it to the max. You know, grab onto this like a dog with a bone. Don't let it go because it will save you. I'm going to mute this for a second while I my green stuff in the morning. So, yeah. So, John, everyone, like, oh my God, even the ego is a belief. Mind is a belief. The universe is a belief. Yeah. Don't stop till you've just completely exhausted and gone all the way to the bottom and find there's nothing but myself. I am all. And that's beyond even the sense of a personal me. It's not GP is all. Obviously not. And boy, would we be in trouble if I was. That is only the appearance of the self. But I'm not just the appearance. I am the self. You are the self. That's all there is the self. The one being. Everything is the supreme being, which is being, consciousness, bliss. And you are that. Don't let anything else in. Don't let anything else become an objective entity that you have to deal with, right? Because the moment you do, you have created your own personal devil, which is why it seems so clever, so subtle, always knows exactly how to poke at you because it's you. That's how it knows. Thank you, John. Ah, lovely, lovely. Robbie, really love your explanation on the it's all mind. And I guess one of the first emerging doubts is, how can it be all within me when I see things around me doing their thing parallel of me? Well, yeah, that's the question. How is this so? Right? Now, the way you've worded it, you really love the explanation. Something inside you recognizes that that's true, right? Now, you have an entire lifetime of believing in an external reality that's doing stuff to you, that you're interacting with, that you're struggling with, that just won't behave itself. We see all sorts of other beings that are appearing to operate completely separate from me. Right? Now, what it is there's a functioning happening. Stuff is happening. Forms are coming and going. From where are they coming and going? Are they something objective that exists independently from me? Well, is there anything in experience itself that announces itself as I exist independently of you? Look at anything. The tree behind me, the dog that just ran through the dog door, is coming over here now to say hello. Right? Just anything. Does he announce himself as being I exist independently of you, or is it just an experience you have that is being interpreted from that point of view? Okay. Now, if you realize that that's what's happening, then it doesn't matter what the experience is. You'll see that there's experience, and then there's an interpretation of it. There's beliefs about it. And then we have this entire structure of its origin in the universe, where it came from, the Big Bang, and all of these things, right? Which are all a version, a belief about experience. The whole thrust of the non-dual inquiry is it goes back the way you came. It steps out of all of the levels of interpretation and assumption and belief to go directly to what the experience is itself, with nothing additionally laid on it. And when you do that, what do you have? Pure awareness. It's the only thing that's left. No thought whatsoever, and yet all experience is happening. There is still dog running around. I have to use the word dog, but that's just a concept, isn't it? It's just an idea. There is this experience. Why would I call it dog? I can also call it me, a form of consciousness, awareness in form, as opposed to awareness in as the ultimate perceiver. Right? So this is where the practice comes in. The habit, right, of that has been completely based on the idea of I am the body in a world external to me, and then all of the beliefs that collected about this imaginary world, right? Beliefs believed in, which became then the interpretation of experience and the creator of experience. Those have all been going on, and you have been believing them your whole life. Now, this other perspective comes in. You see, my God, it's at least possible that none of this is out there, right? And that I only, because I'm identified with the body, I think I'm here and it's out there. But are you experiencing it out there? Or are you experiencing it in here? Are you experiencing something outside of consciousness, or you ever experience everything within consciousness? Just look. Now, the only struggle that's with that is because we're so used to thinking it in other terms. The mind has been conditioned to make that assumption, right? And it is so fundamental, it's not very quick to let it go until you see there is no such thing as mind. You begin to see that this line, this imaginary boundary between me and others, is imaginary. It's as imaginary as the boundary between countries. Go look for it. You won't find it. It's completely a projection of the mind on experience. Get to the raw experience. What's the raw experience? Just try to look around right now without labeling anything. Just, and suddenly there'll be quiet. Just quiet. Everything's still here. What we call the universe is still going on. Stuff is happening. And in the center of it, it's just your awareness. Neither inside nor outside. It even all just completely disappears. Now, I'll leave that for now. I'm not sure it's complete, but
Has more to say.
Milo, hello, GP. How does letting go work most effectively? Bit by bit, layer by layer, or more radically? Thanks, and I hope you enjoy your time in Frankfurt. I'm sure I will. Matter of fact, I know I will. Well, it's nothing you can decide. I'm going to let it all go now. Yeah, whatever. Right? I make things very, very simple. The only thing you have to do, the only thing you have to deal with, the only thing you have to let go of or come into right relationship with is what is here now. When you start thinking, okay, how does it work? Bit by bit or layer by layer, right? More radically, right? There's this idea of this end state at which I'm going to let it all go, right? And I can let it all go now, or I got to do it a little bit by little bit. There is no end state. There's only this moment. And if you see it like that, then every moment that you do not attach to, that you let it be as it is, you'll find that letting go is not an event that concludes, but a way of being that never stops, right? And it morphs into into simply non-attachment, where you're not picking anything up, so you don't have to let anything go. And then little by little, you see that it was conditioning and the mind that was holding on to things, not you. And now you've let it all go, right? Because you never had it in the first place. It is mind that attaches, right? Because the mind is, by its nature, is relative. It's grabbing onto this and grabbing onto that. Because the sense of self, the false sense of self, has to have a reference point. It has to have some place to kind of put a stake in the ground and say, this is what I am. That stake, of course, the original stake was, I am the body. And the moment that thought was there was the arbitrary definition of who I was. Now, I'm not the body. You're not the body. But when I believe that I am, I have created an imaginary self. And because it's imaginary, right, it has no substance to it. There's nothing fixed about it. And so mind then starts putting, trying to fix things, make something permanent. And of course, everything's changing around it, which is why it always feels unstable. It never, ever feels truly secure. It can't. It's not possible. So set aside the idea of technique, that I've got to do it. Can I do it like this or do it like this? What's happening here and now? That's all you have to worry about, because that's all there is. You don't have to try to worry about fixing the things in the past. What remains of the past will be present in this moment as various kinds of feelings and ideas and thoughts on that. So you don't have to go in the past. If the thoughts themselves or the feeling themselves or the process of releasing needs to bring something up that apparently happened in the past, great, but it'll be now. It'll be bringing it up now. You never have to worry about. You only have to worry about. You're driving your car. You don't worry about what you passed back there, right? Because you won't you might, something could come out. You're right here on the road. You're watching what's happening right now for traffic and pedestrians and stuff. Happens, aliens. What all the normal stuff that happens. That's all you have to concern yourself with, isn't it? So when I'm working with people, either individually or in groups, it's always, well, what are you feeling now? What's happening in the body? What feelings come up? An image will come up. Oh, let's talk about what's the image that came up. Right? I don't go dredging. I don't do past life regressions. I don't try to get into, what happened to you when you were a child. I'm not taking notes. I'm not referring to the DSM-5. Um, so what are you feeling right now? Right? And that's all you ever have to do. And then pick it up from there. So you can even set the thing outside bit by bit, layer by layer, or more radically, because the most radical thing a human being can do is to be present in this moment. And when you are, you find that this moment will always present bit by bit. And again, now you notice you're not doing it anymore. You're flowing with it. You're participating in the Tao. One quick. Nobody wants to hear me blow my nose. Satsang. One thing about the desert is it does have an effect on your nose. Anyway, Milo, does that answer it for you, my friend? Very. There we go. I thought I clicked to mute, remuted itself. Anyway, hope that worked for you, Milo. And I got a thumbs up and a smiley face from Melissa. That's the best. Tatiana, you'll never be fired. 100% job security. Good. Very good, because I can't get work anywhere else. Oh, Milo, it seems like it's an endless game when it's in small pieces. It isn't an endless game. Um, because ultimately you see right down to the essence, I am not the body, I am the self. All the rest of this is just part of the process of coming to the point where you can completely surrender to being the self. Right? And the resistance falls away. The conditioning becomes less and less. It becomes weaker and weaker. And so it isn't an endless game. If the objective is the objective like self-help or personal development, then it is an endless game. Without the additional understanding of the true nature of the self and who you really are, then it is an endless game, because it's a moving target, right? It's never enough. It'll never work. It'll never. What's the word? What's the right word? Right? There will always be something missing, right? No matter how much self improvement you do, no matter how much you learn, right? No matter how much you release, or how much you process, there'll always be more, right? Because if you're simply trying to improve a self that doesn't really exist, right? It's like giving medicine to a ghost. It's just going to shift position, become a different self with a different set of problems. So in that sense, that would make it endless. That's the self-help treadmill. Without without the non-dual spiritual understanding of who you are, right? Who you've always been, the process is endless. But knowing who you are, you realize that what you're really doing is not improving a self, but simply deconstructing and eradicating anything that isn't you. And that doesn't need improving. It's a disidentification with the self that needs constant improvement, because you've never been that. You have always been you. And that's the discovery. And that takes That doesn't throw all the self-help techniques out. I use EFT and a few other things. So you've inner child work and some things like that. Had past life regressions take place, um, but they're serving a different purpose, right? They're serving the process of disidentification with conditioning, and the identification with conditioning is the false self. That is the ego. That's all there is to it, right? And so, from the point of view of knowing who you are, the various techniques of therapy and self-help and personal development can become effective, right? They won't become a treadmill. So, okay, Milo, thank you. Renee posted my question before saying hello. Renee from Philly. Go Birds. Thank you. Go Birds, yes. Persistent ego. Throughout the last year, I have had this experience happen on the tail end of a psychedelic experience, but that has, in its last occurrence, been happening during meditation. Is there more? That's it. Okay. Well, I don't know exactly if there's a question here, so I guess I'll just make a comment about it. The meditation is the actual practice that will bring you to the permanent experience of what psychedelics can only give you temporarily. They can shut a lot of stuff down, take away a lot of the aggression, the alpha male stuff, a lot of stuff that will give you a momentary experience of what it's like to not be who you thought you were. That is a momentary experience where the ego has basically been put on hold. But the psychedelic experience cannot sustain it. It's only an experience. It's a medicine. It's not, it has no, it was never intended to be a substitute for the kind of inquiry, right? Only opens the door. For a lot of people, it's an important door to open because they have no idea there's anything else. And so if there's some kind of opening to having the psychedelic experience, then then that's an opening. It opens it some more, and then becomes the process of integration. In many cultures that use that, where psychedelics, the journey was a part of the culture, not something happening on the outside. In some of them, it was something you did once in a lifetime. It was a major deal with the ceremony and preparation and that. The in many of the Native American tribes, the first time for boys, the first time there'd be some kind of a psychedelic experience is after they have faced their initiation and gone through death. Then it comes as a part of the process for finding a vision for oneself. But it was not the way. It's never been the way. It's a medicine. Medicines are not they're first off, they're not recreational, right? And they're not supposed to be taken all the time. You take medicine when you're ill. When you're well, you don't take the medicine anymore. So the fact that it's happening during meditation means your meditation is deepening, and the time will come where you will no longer need medicine, because the medicine cannot sustain it permanently. It was never meant to, right? Meditation can. That's the inner transformation that opens up the place where you no longer have an experience that then reasserts itself, but that your self-identification becomes less and less identified with the ego, more and more with the self. And then at first that can even bring about naturally some very intense psychedelic kinds of experiences, although they tend to be more emotional than visual. But eventually even those fade away because they're not it either, right? Anything that is an experience isn't it, because if I can experience it, the experience always comes and goes. The question remains, who is it that's having the experience? Does that come and go? I can't experience myself. I can't stand aloof from myself and have an experience of myself. I can only be myself. Yeah. So thanks for your comment there, persistent ego. And if you continue that, the ego won't be so persistent, or come to see that the ego doesn't have persistence unless you say it does. The ego does not exist as an entity that has any objective characteristics. It is completely a construction of the mind and therefore does not exist as a reality. Klesu, people talk about meeting other aspects of their soul. I usually identify with everything they say, but have never had such experiences myself. What am I missing here? And where are you? I guess I have a sense of galactic expansion, but no detailed experience. Is it necessary for spiritual progress? I'm in Tempe, Arizona, at my son's house, because I'm flying out of here to Frankfurt on Tuesday. So I'm just, visiting my son and family for a bit. Um, let's see. I usually identify with everything they say. They talk about meeting other aspects of their soul. I have a sense of galactic expansion, but no detailed experience. Is it necessary for spiritual progress? No. The experience of other aspects of ourselves is actually all you ever experience, right? I don't care what it is. You're watching me right now. I'm an aspect of you. That's all you ever experience ever, right? The computer sitting in front of you is an aspect of you. It's an aspect of consciousness. It appears in consciousness. It appears to consciousness, and it is made of consciousness. It is an aspect. Everything. The dog that just came out of the dog door, right? The dog door itself, the house, the grass, the room, the sky, all of it is consciousness. Therefore, it is all aspects of consciousness. What one is missing is it thinks that there are certain things. Well, you say, what am I missing here? It's the belief that certain things are aspects of me and certain things aren't. You are the self. It's all you. There isn't anything other than you. There is no experience other than myself. You never have an experience other than yourself. There's nothing you experience other than you. If you really ponder that, you'll see it is self-evidently true. I don't ever experience an other. I only experience me. If there's no me, I have no experience at all. Therefore, the experience of me and the experience of other are always simultaneous. I'm always experiencing the self, myself. And so when you have a sense of a galactic expansion, that too is an aspect of consciousness, right? The ant is an expression, is an aspect of consciousness. The universe is an aspect of consciousness, and a tiny blade of grass is an aspect of consciousness. It's all of it. Absolutely all of it. So having a particular kind of a sense, a particular quality of experience, has nothing to do with spiritual progress, because spiritual progress is not an improvement in the kind of experiences you have, although that does happen. Spiritual progress is coming to know the experiencer separate from the experience. That to see that the experiencer is myself, and that's not coming and going. But experience, no matter what it is, no matter how glorious or horrible, it comes and it goes. You even say it was glorious compared to previously, it wasn't so glorious. And now I'm having a glorious experience, right? Now I have the sense of the galactic expansion. And the next minute I have the sense of my galactic contraction. Just they're both experiences, aren't they? And notice, without you, this constant, neither could be experienced. So spiritual progress means the sense of self is moving away from experience and into the absolute experiencer. moving away from that which is constantly changing and fluctuating, the ups and downs, the yin yang, into that which is unchanging, which is beyond time and space, beyond all objects, beyond all experiences. That is the self. That is you. And you don't have to look for long to realize, oh my God, that's me. I'm what's not changing. I'm always here. Right? But our very immature ways of teaching spirituality has turned it into a particular kind of experience. The experience of, this bliss, this eternal, oh, I'm so happy, it's so wonderful, I feel so free, I feel one with everything. That's it. And of course, when that fades, as it will, and now you're feeling, I don't feel so good, right? Then it's like, oh, I'm not spiritual now. Something's wrong. Like the object of spiritual progress is to have this a particular quality of experience, a quality of feeling. It's not. Once you see that, you let go of trying to control any of this, and that's when you discover the true bliss, which is, oh my God, none of this touches me. I am beyond all of it. As Christ said, be of good cheer. I have overcome the world. That's what he was talking about. It's not that he conquered it, right? He had, the big army that, conquered the Romans, which is what they wanted. They were hoping for, right? That was what the Messiah was supposed to do. No, it was all here. He conquered it here, right? Right? He was beyond the world. And that state of beyond the world, it's not a state, the nature of being itself, which is what he referred to as my Father. Right? If he had appeared in an Indian culture or in a Buddhist setting, he would have used completely different languages, right? Different words, right? But he didn't. He appeared there, so he used the language of the time, the metaphors of the time. And so for him, it was the kingdom of heaven, the kingdom of God. It was the oneness of I and my Father are one. And those are the terms he used to express the unchanging. Before Abraham was, I am. This is what he's referring to. Right? This comes and goes. There's no stone set upon another that shall not be torn down. Right? Heaven and earth will pass away, but my words shall never pass away. He's referring to this absolutely changeless background, and that's where the true bliss of being lies, not in a particular quality of spiritual experience. Even if that experience comes from, plant medicine or it comes from meditation, right? All experience is transient. Don't get caught by any of it. Right? So it's not necessary for spiritual progress. Spiritual progress is always, who am I? Who is it that's even noticing progress? And is that which is constant and unchanging, does it need to progress? From where to where? Where does the infinite progress from and to? You are that. Ida, Catherine, and love you, GP. Thank you, loud and clear. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. So glad. Namaste to you too, Kiran. Looking at you, I am in love with love as love being nothing. Oh, isn't that great? Yes. Love being nothing and no one. And thus you are everything and everyone. This is the great mystery. It's not the kind of nothing that the mind has. There's nothing here, or everything. It is neither this nor that, nor both nor neither. It is beyond all human research. And you are that. Bob. Dear G, I was drawn to your meditation on true power. I've done it many times. As I was doing it today, I found my true power in my heart. Although I don't understand it, and nothing in my life seems like I have any power, it still feels amazing. I feel amazing and I love you. I love you too, Bob. Yes, that's a mind says, it, nothing in my life feels like I have any power, right? Because the mind's idea of power is control over external objects, right? True power is recognizing that there are no external objects to control. They are myself, and all I have to control is my own thoughts, my own identification, my own beliefs. And those are completely under my control. I can't fix what's going on in the world, right? But I can certainly fix how I'm seeing the world. That's absolute power. And you found it in the heart, which means just an intuitive sense of presence, of unmovableness, of love, of the absoluteness of love. That's what power feels like, not control. Right? Beautiful, 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 beautiful. Yes. Thought a lot about that word of late as well. Oh, thank you, Bob. Just enjoy that amazing feeling and let it lead you to deeper and deeper places. Now, this is a very important one. It's subtle. And when we have a feeling, an amazing feeling like that, there's a very subtle tendency to want to hold on to the feeling. Now, obviously, that which wants to hold on to the feeling sees it as something transient and temporary, something that comes and goes, something it can lose. And therefore it has taken that which is in fact your very nature and projected it outward as if it were an experience. Okay? So the amazing feeling is the wake on the boat. Keep your eyes on where the boat's headed. Because you may find all of a sudden the amazing feeling isn't there, and there'll be a sense of trying to get it back or cling to it. Notice that too, and just go back into the quiet emptiness to which even the amazing feeling appeared, right? Because that's its real source. That is the true God. That is the true self. And every experience, every feeling emerges from there. Very good. Very good. Renee Thames. Okay. Sound is fine. Thank you for your advice. It is always appreciated. I'm from Philadelphia. I know there's a lot of people from around the world listening to you, and maybe they would know what Philly, oh, maybe they wouldn't know what Philly means, right? Yeah, it's everybody in America, everybody knows what Philly is. Clay Sue, if I am self, what is this mind body here to do? Yeah. Come to see that the mind body is also the self. The self is all there is. And so the self is the computer in front of you. It is the body, it's your nose, it's the eyes, it's the seeing. None of it could exist without the self there to experience it, right? It cannot exist without the self, which means it doesn't have an existence, and then there's a self that it's here that it has to do something with, right? That it is the self. The self as form, the self is emptiness. This is the Heart Sutra. Emptiness is form, form is emptiness. Emptiness is the same as form. Form is the same as emptiness. They are not two. We look at it as two just by means of expression. So I would say, the inward path of complete disidentification, and the outward path, which is the complete reunification, where nothing is me, everything is me, right? And they're both true, right? So the mind and body are not separate. There is nothing separate. Nothing. So mind and body don't actually exist as an entity or an external of anything, right? They don't exist. They are the self. This is the self knowing itself. Just like your thoughts can't exist without you, can they? They don't appear somewhere else. They don't think themselves. They're simply what's appearing to you. So what are your thoughts? They're you, are they not? They're not something other than you. Now when you realize that all of this is thought, is your mind, well then all of this is me. As it says in the Upanishads, everything is myself, for this has poured forth from me. Really take that to heart. John says, wonderful, thank you. You're welcome. Mary, hello, GP and everyone. Hello, Mary. Diane, bless you from Diane and Yuko. Am in center of a storm of fear and sorrow. You lifted me out. First time in a week, I am serene again. Wonderful. Thank you, Diane. Thank you. If you don't mind, I may pick this up and use it as a testimony on my site. Yes. This is the gift of true spirituality. Right? It heals without even the intention of healing. It does all the things that Jesus said to do. Feed the hungry, heal the sick, open the eyes of the blind. It does it automatically. You don't have to try. It relieves the sorrow. It visits the homeless, the widows, the children, the orphans. It is love itself. And fear, sorrow, none of these things can stand in the presence of love. They don't need to. Love has no enemies, has no critics. Thank you, Diane. Claysu, I undertook pure awareness work. The intention was to clear emotional fields that troubled me, and when all emotional fields from the past were gone, energy would flow as it was intended. After 10 really nice years, actually, I find I'm not yet clear and having a tough ego time these last 2 years. My dad told me this time would come all my childhood. My mom said I would never be able to handle this time. I need to work this out. Okay. Clear emotional fields that troubled me, right? You don't have to clear the emotional fields that trouble you. You have to stop being troubleable. You don't have to clear them away. Right? Matter of fact, the fact that they trouble you is what's sustaining them. That is the energy that perpetuates them. Right? What you've done, and I'm not discounting the 10 years, right? You know, you've developed the sense of awareness, right? And I can feel that. So now the next step is to completely disidentify with what you're aware of, which is including all the emotional patterns, whatever you want to call them. Best not call them anything. They're just feelings that are coming for which you have resistance. Right? Let the feelings come, and just drop the resistance. It doesn't matter what you're feeling. Like I was saying earlier, you don't have to feel good all the time. That's not spirituality. It's an awareness of the one who is having the experience. And at that point, it doesn't matter what you experience. Whether the mind calls it good or bad, comfortable, uncomfortable, it doesn't matter. It doesn't touch you. Because you are not your experience. Your dad said this time would come. Well, okay, maybe, right? You're in a time right now. Was it prophesied by your dad? I don't know. Forget that. Forget the past. Completely forget the past. That there's even any energy that has to be gotten rid of or handled or cleared. Just get rid of all of that and just be present with what is here in this moment. And don't give it a history. I have a feeling now. And the mind will mean, oh, this is coming from this and this childhood thing and that kind of thing. Don't do that. Just throw all that out. Some of it may come up as part of the process, but don't go digging. There's a feeling here right now. Okay, there's a feeling. Oh, there's a resistance. I don't want to feel this. And my mind's coming up with all ways to try to get rid of the feeling, right? So I don't have this experience anymore. But what am I actually suffering from? Am I suffering from the experience, or am I suffering from the fact I don't want to have it? Mom's wrong, by the way. You'll never be able to handle this. You are. Sorry, Mom. What does that mean? I'm going to explode? I'm going to die? I'm having it, and I'm still here. So, Mom, no. 1 for me, 0 for Mom. But really look at it, because all it is a resistance to what's being felt. You realize that there's these elaborate ways that we think we're not supposed to. I'm going to be really free when I don't feel it anymore. No, you're going to be free when you don't care whether you feel it anymore or not, where it simply doesn't matter. God, I really feel like shit today. Okay. But there's no suffering in it if there's no desire for it to be anything else. Right? Then you can begin to approach what pure awareness actually is. It is not a state. It's not a condition. Right? What it is the pure love that doesn't have any issues with anything. That's pure awareness. And that's true being. Did I help you with that, Klesu? This is important because you're close. You are close, my friend. Hi, Nazarene. Good to see you. Hendrik. So that which thinks it perceives and tries to get rid of the false identity isn't it. But that unchanging openness is. So no need to try to change myself, because that self is what's happening on autopilot out of a bunch of circumstances. So searching is a distraction of what is. Yes, if you really see that, right? The searching, at first what happens is it changes shapes. It becomes more about, I'm trying to find the self. It becomes more about exploring the self. Wow, what is this depths of me? But since you're already it, right? What's there to seek, right? So yes, seeking itself, it's absolutely necessary at first, okay? Everybody has to go through the seeking time, right? But then little by little, you begin to see that, well, wait a minute. If I'm already it, what am I seeking? Who is it that's aware of this activity of my heart and mind that's been seeking? Oh my God, that's me. Isn't that who I've been seeking? So the thought that says I've got to get rid of this false identity is the false identity, but now it's shifted. It's a little shapeshifter, right? It didn't used to just be the false identity. Now it became the spiritual false identity. It has to get rid of this other identity, also an identity, right? You don't have to get rid of anything, right? You're it. What do you need to get rid of? What could you get rid of? Right? That unchanging openness, that which is aware of the false identity and the attempt to get rid of the false identity, that's aware of the seeking and the search and the seeker, that's you. Are you not the one that is aware of all of that? And now even the identity as the seeker begins to diminish. And you find I am that. And that I am that. I've always been that. That's what you'll find is absolutely impossible for the mind to grasp. Yeah, right. Okay, and we're gonna really realize that now. There's not even anything to realize. But ultimately, there is no enlightenment because there's no ignorance. All opposites disappear. All of them. There's neither good nor bad, nor up nor down, nor male nor female, comfortable, uncomfortable. You'll find that those are all categorizations of thought, and reality is beyond all categorizations of thought. It cannot be spoken. The best you can say is, I am that. The only obvious truth. And even those words, right? I am that by which I know I am. It all just goes poof. Searching is a distraction of what is, but even the one who's getting distracted is appearing in front of you, isn't it? So there's not even anybody getting distracted. There only is what is, right? Are you following that? You're not what isn't, and there's something else that is trying to find you. When you find what is, who's going to recognize that it's what is? Oh, what is has to recognize what is. So, what is that different from you? The seeking, the seeker, the search are all being watched by what is. You say I am, right? What is? Who can say what is except what is? You are that. I rest my case. Bob, I'm soaking up your words. You are right. There's a tendency to hold on that feeling. Yes. Oh my God, it's going to go away. I'm going to feel shitty again. And so what happens, right? That itself plants the seed for feeling shitty, right? Because no feeling lasts, which means no feeling is it. Because if it's it, that which actually is, it isn't sometimes and not is some other times. It doesn't come into being. The infinite doesn't have a beginning. So, yes, good. I'm glad you caught that. Yeah. It's a subtle one, and I see it happen all the time. Hendrik is following. Good, good. Diane, oh, yes. Great. Fantastic. Thank you. What you said to the feeling of emotions is like the only way to healthily go along. Yes, because you're not the emotions, and they're going to react. That's their job, right? See something I like, they're going to go, oh, ooh, I like that. And they say, I don't like it. Get me out of here, right? That's what they do, right? Right? What does that have to do with you, right? Could they function without you, right? Could there be emotions without you there to perceive them? Do they emote themselves? Pay attention to the one experiencing the feeling, the one looking at the thought, the one that's seeing all of this go by, the one that's watching the seeking happening, right? And isn't that you? Is that different from you? Beautiful. Beautiful. David and Elaine, wonderful satsang G. Deep appreciation for the beauty of your words. Having passed your probation period as resident sage, we wish you love and blessing in your role as wandering sage. I've earned the right to wander. The itinerant preacher is in my tent meetings. I'm going to go over your setup. Wouldn't that be funny? Oh my God, wouldn't that be funny? Non-dual satsang tent meetings. Okay. Penny. Thank you, David and Lane. You guys are wonderful. I can't wait to meet you in person. Penny, thank you, Sifu, for your unconditional love. Have a safe trip for your next destination. Thank you, I will. Claysu, my dad said at this time humanity and the earth would move toward freedom. I agree. My mom said that the world would be a control system and that I should be the controller, not the controlled. Ah, I see. Yeah. Yeah, we are in a time that's moving towards, well, it's got to move towards freedom, right? Because bondage can't last, right? It takes so much energy and pressure and stuff to make it last. It's like, you can see it, it just can't work, right? So I say that the only standard we need is love. And I know love will work. Why? Because if you project love into the future, you get nothing but more love, more freedom, more cooperation, collaboration. More patience, more compassion. That's the inevitable result of more love. Less love, what do you get? You get constriction, you get anger, you get fights, you get war, you get violence, you get all of that. It's inevitable. Look, you don't need. It's not rocket science. I don't need a PhD in political science to say this is what's going to happen. Now, as far as your mom is concerned, the world will try to become. The ego wants to control. That's what it does, and now it's just really big. It's just it's just infected all of the systems and everything. But don't become the controller because that's the ego trying to control it. Don't do that. You don't need to control it. All you need is to see who you are. That's it. It will control the rest. The truth doesn't need to control anything, does it? And it can't be controlled. You can't control the truth. It's the truth, right? It holds all the cards. I've been trying to follow my dad's point. I have this inner split, fear I will fail a new earth. My dad was a CIA trained American Army vet. Well, that may mean that his idea of the earth moving towards freedom is the American model, which is not freedom at all. It's a horrible, horrible bondage, but it is the most deceptive of all of them. Whoa, yeah. I don't know your father, but if this is the CIA perspective of the earth moving towards freedom, what it really is means that a worldwide empire under the United States, right? And the United States being controlled by a handful of people. And actually, the CIA doesn't even work for the United States. They work for Wall Street. They work for the big banks. They're not even. And I won't go off on that, but since it's put it that way, let go of all of that. All of it. Right? If you're on the spiritual path, you want to go beyond all of the systems of the world because they are transient and temporary, and they eventually collapse. Right? Don't be the controller, right? Because you will then be enslaved by the means of control, right? And you'll be forever in fear that you're going to lose that control because you can't keep it because it's external. Find you. That's all you ever need to do. We are light, and that all is one. Yes. That, taken into your heart, seen to be true, dissolving all beliefs and anything external, that is what will transform the world and bring genuine freedom. The freedom that only comes from real love. Klesu, thank you. Gee, thanks for this. Another beautiful and uplifting satsang. I wish you a smooth and happy travel to Frankfurt and all the best in your new place. Thank you all. Yes, this is off on another adventure. And I got to tell you all, just like any other human being, I'm both filled with absolute excitement and terror. It's like, what have I done? Well, just like I did, 6 years ago. I left it all behind and just started wandering. It's like, what have I done? Well, the same thing I always do. And my kids love their crazy old man. It's delightful. They're both very proud of me. The guy's willing to just leave it all and go off. Which do you prefer? To have a nice, safe life, have everything you need, everything you've ever wanted, but you can't leave, or to not have all the things you want and to have the freedom to just move. I said, that's my dad. Roz, the idea of Advaita seems to be spreading everywhere. I'm reading a recently written sci-fi novel where a character has the narrative chain he thought was himself swept away. Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. The insight into the true nature of the self and the illusion of the false self. You are seeing it appear everywhere. And believe me, folks, you are going to see it more. Notice, some of you here 10 years ago may never have heard this. Lisa, who is my producer of my show, she'd never heard the term non-duality or self-inquiry until she met me. And we just met at another thing. that really had nothing to do with it. And she heard me refer to it, and that was the first time, which is like been just about a year ago. Right? So, and now she's like, everything she's doing, she's putting self inquiry into it, and she teaches people how to work with nutrition and stuff like that. So it, the serum has been injected. The real vaccine of non-dual self-inquiry has been injected. We've all been, in fact, we've all been uh, 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 immunized using it, and you'll just see it appearing more and more and more and more. All right, folks, I'm going to bring it to an end for today. I want to thank you all for joining me. As far as I know, there will be satsang next next week. I should be settled in, um, although there's still some things up in the air. But I should be there for satsang next week. So, Susan, every time I find me, I find any desire to try fizzles. Outer life is falling apart. Sometimes this feels free, at others irresponsible. To not try, as I gave up, abdicated. Don't give up. Don't give up your ambitions, your ideas, your aspirations, right? We want to redeem them and temper them, right? The non-duality, genuine spirituality is not a cut and run. It's not a knife, and to just cut. Simultaneously, um, don't be concerned about your outer life if it seems to be falling apart. I've experienced it, even after awakening, numerous times, right? This recent trip, even though it was a decision of mine, it didn't come from the outside world. All of a sudden, 3-4 weeks ago, I start selling everything off. I'm sitting in this empty apartment. Right? It's like, is everything falling apart? Did I do the right thing? Those thoughts appear. Now, they don't sink in anymore, right? But nothing's going to stop. There may be nothing stopping them from appearing. Your life is not falling apart; it's coming together. Just continue to focus on the finding of the me, right? And you'll see that the desire to try isn't there. Okay, but just notice that there are things during the day that need to be done, and do them, right? Don't have to try, but just let the necessities and whatever's coming in life come and go. Okay, I got to do this. I got to make this phone call. I've got to cook this meal. I've got to I've got to do this, this thing for work, right? I have to do that every day. I have to sell classes in order to keep doing this for free. I meet with people. There's lots of things that I do. They're just part of what happens, right? So don't be concerned. You're not becoming irresponsible. You're not going to become in fact, you're going to become even more responsible, because you're going to be taking care of the things that really need to be taken care of. And first and foremost, right, beyond all of that, is to take care of you, which means find you, and then become established there. And the more you become established, the less you'll be concerned about the things that are the transformation that's happening externally. And of course, we want that external affirmation, right? We want that transformation. We want our lives to improve. Well, sometimes they get a little bit worse before they get better. Positive fatty. What happens to consciousness as we sleep? Love your view on this, my wonderful friend. Nothing. When you fall into a dream, it's just this goes, and the mind starts creating a different reality than this one. That one has got different rules. It's not consistent. You don't have to have a history, so you can find yourself in a room, in another place, and different body. So it has a different rules, and then you fall into deep sleep, and there's no content at all. You're not there, in a sense. The sense of self is not there. Even that, at times during the night, is gone, and there's nothing. There's no time. There's no space. There's no me. There's no ego. There's no nothing. Right? That's what we call deep sleep. You could fall into it. 2 hours goes by. You wake up, and that was 2 hours. Of course, because there was nothing there to measure time, right? Because time is a relative measurement. And that so that deep sleep, then we love, right? We invest a lot of money in mattresses because, oh God, I slept wonderfully. Right, you weren't there. This is the this is pointing to the ultimate bliss of existence, where you, the ego, is not there at all anymore. It is just the self. So, thanks, Positive Patty. Thank you. Enjoy traveling. Thank you, Klesu. Thank you, Joanna. Thank you, Susan. Hendrik, where do I see you schedule in Germany? I, I don't know yet because of all the lockdown stuff that's happening in Germany right now. I don't know how I'm going to be working out. I don't know when I'm going to be able to start working out, you know, live events and the like. Um, but I'm sure it's going to happen sometime in 2022. So, I may be able to just kind of set something up, locally, private place. Maybe I have a place will be nice enough. I can have people come there, and we can do something there where it's not in a public space where it's going to be more regulated. So, on that note, everyone, I'm definitely going to take my leave of you now. I'm going to hang out for the rest of today with my son, his wife, my inherited grandson, and before I take off, it's about 4 or 5 in the morning. So, all my love to you all. And by the way, there will be no radio show this week because I'll be traveling. So, Lisa and I we're picking a rerun to run on Tuesday. So, until then, everybody, love you all, and namaste.